All right, I will recall this meeting to order at the 5th of May, and those present are same as they were during closed session with the addition of Mr. Adler. And with that, we will stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And we will start off with our 4 p.m. citizens to be heard. If you've got folks that want to come up and talk, when you are called up, please introduce yourself, and Mr. Stocks will keep us on schedule. So, yes, ma'am.
So my name is Gail Biederman. I'm one of the homeowners on the Spanish Valley Trail multi-use bike path. And I wanted to introduce myself, Gail Biederman. My husband, Larry Grella, was an avid cyclist that had been coming to Moab for 35 years when he was in the ski season, and bought this house in 2005. And I wanted you all to kind of put a face with, when you look at the plat maps and see what's involved. My husband was a very big cyclist. In fact, he died mountain biking in Park City. He had a cardiac arrest in 2023. But he died doing what he loved, and that's why he bought the house in Moab. So when you look at, I'm a big proponent of cycling and safety for cyclists, and that is why it brought so many people like us from different parts of the country to live in Moab, and why I chose, after Larry died, to sell the house in Salt Lake and become a full-time resident here. So I moved here full-time in June. I sold my house in Salt Lake and moved down here in June of last year. So this is kind of it is my forever retirement home. And I wasn't aware of the bike path until the guy, I was going to do some xeriscaping, landscaping in my front yard, and my fix-it guy went down to look at some of the property lines and said, Gail, you've got a bike path coming through your front yard. So it's a pretty, my house is, if you haven't driven by, I would encourage all of you to drive by. I think my house is one of the most substantially impacted because the corner of my house comes within 18 feet of this bike path. So I just want to let you know that I'm a big proponent, but it is going to greatly change the value of my house with it so close to the house. And I want to encourage all of you to drive by, to stop in, walk it. It's staked right now where you can see the multi-use bike path will go. And I wanted you to put a face with when you're looking at this chunk of change, I'm sure you're all, toying with, but it's going to, because of the close proximity of my house, I've just spent a lot of money on windows and putting a new roof on my house, and the closeness of it is kind of greatly impacting my quality. So I would encourage all of you to come by and have a look. So thank you.
Thank you. And we look forward to working with that on you, and our condolences for your loss.
Thank you.
I knew your husband, Gail. Larry the Legend, we called him in the bike community here.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have anyone else that would like to come up? Yes, please introduce yourself.
I'm Mary O'Brien in Castle Valley. In a few moments, residents of Grand County will hear a summary of the Gardner Institute report regarding whether Arches National Park timed entry was lowering the profits of some businesses in Grand County. Hopefully soon, Grand County residents made for this will even get to read the report for themselves. But contracting for the report never was based on real curiosity as to whether timed entry affected the profits of local businesses. Contracting for the report was and is part of a statewide effort to dominate Arches National Park and to show the park supervisor and staff that their public decision-making processes about travel management are subject to county nullification. It's part of the decades-long efforts of a minority in Utah to dominate, control, and privatize national public lands in Utah. Without waiting for the results of the report, Arches National Park was ordered to halt timed entry. Without waiting for results of the report, an Arches Access and Capacity Enhancement Plan was presented to the supervisor of Arches in a meeting with state officials and other county commissioners who were also presenting their plans to tell their adjacent national park how they should let people come into their park. Without waiting for results of the report, Commissioners Winfield and Martinez have begun to seek funds for a shuttle into Arches National Park to supplement cars and RVs. This is not a critique of the Gardner Institute, who simply did a study they were paid to undertake.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Andrew Jackson. I'm just doing my annual PSA. May is designated as Skin Cancer Awareness Month, a time dedicated to promoting sun safety, early detection, and education about the most common form of cancer. You may know I've had a 15-year battle with skin cancer, but it really hasn't been a battle. I've just surrendered territory. And I enjoyed every day at the beach and every day at the lake and every day at the ocean and the pool. And it was fun times. So at least I had a fun time getting cancer. Key initiatives during this month include Melanoma Monday, which was yesterday, and then Don't Fry Friday on the Friday before Memorial Day. It's important to not get sunburned. Recent studies have said sun tanning is okay, but the burn is the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Anybody online? I should check. We're good. All right, we will move on then. Thank you. And we will go into, who do we have doing employee recognition here?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't see your face back there, Tess. Come on forward. I've also mentioned, and maybe you are already, that Chris Kaufman was given an Affiliate of the Year award.
I wasn't aware of.
Association of Counties just last Thursday.
Correct.
Or
That's
yeah.
incredible. Very,
Yeah, I
very
was
well
gonna say
deserved.
that when we were doing considerations.
That's wonderful. Well, good for Treasurer Kaufman. He does an amazing job for our community. So I'll first start off by saying that our wonderful Grant Center employees actually didn't want individual recognition. They were very, very humble about this. So I'll read a statement on behalf of the county to the entire Grant Center team. So the statement recognizes the Grant Center team's incredible work and coordinated response during an emergency incident. Last week, a Grant Center employee arrived at a senior's home to provide scheduled transportation. After receiving no response at the door, the employee jumped into action by immediately contacting the senior's emergency contact and their fellow Grant Center staff. The Grant Center team helped facilitate successful contact with the senior's family, Because of this swift and coordinated response, the senior's family was notified promptly and contacted emergency medical services. The senior was transported to receive necessary medical care. We cannot overstate the value that the Grant Center services and staff offer to our community's senior citizens. Thank you to them for the care, compassion, and the responsibility with which they approach their work.
Very nice. Thank you. The entire staff at the Grand Center does an awesome job down there. They keep things running smoothly. So, all right, with that, we will look for a couple of folks from the Chem Gardner Institute to come online and help with their presentation. This presentation was asked for, studied, had a lot of feedback back and forth, and was commissioned by the commission here. And so we thought it appropriate that they present their findings to the commission here, and then from here they will then go out into the public and people will have an opportunity to dig into it at their will. So thank you, Mr. Dean, and feel free to take it away.
Thank you. Appreciate the chance to join. I do have some slides to share. Could I get that enabled?
Okay, Quinn will help you get online here.
All right, should be good.
There we go. We can see it on this end.
Great. So, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Phil Dean with the Kemsey Gardner Policy Institute. I'm the research director and chief economist here. And first of all, I just want to say how great it is to join with you today and share the findings from our recently completed report. So I plan to walk through the main findings here in some slides. And then at the end, at the chair's discretion, happy to respond to questions from the commission members. One thing I do want to touch on a little bit before I jump in on the slides themselves is something that we value a lot here at the Gardner Institute, that we work very hard to be a credible, independent voice. And so in fact, one of our committable core values is research integrity and relevance. And, as I've been involved in this study and worked with our team on that, I feel very strongly that our team delivered on that. I know there's a lot of questions and a lot of back and forth about all of this, but I hope you know that we've given our level best in giving you a credible, reasonable estimate. Now, one of the challenges when you're doing econometric estimates is they are estimates. Right. And so Michael Hogue, one of the team members that I'll talk about here in a minute, makes this comparison that I think is very apt to you're doing an appraisal, maybe even just like your county assessor does an appraisal for property tax purposes. At the end of the day, you don't with certainty know what every single property will sell for, given a willing buyer, willing seller situation. But the estimates are trying to get at that. And again, I want to go back to that. We've given you our best thinking and analysis. We hope it presents a series of data points that you can look at as you make decisions about what to do best for your county. And we know there are going to be other data points out there that you're also going to look at as you do that. And that's great. Like we're just giving you our best thinking. I hope you understand that context, that's what we're doing. So with that, just want to kind of touch briefly on our team that worked on this report. So John Downen, our senior research fellow, Michael Hogue, our senior research statistician, Jennifer Lever, who's our senior tourism analyst, and Nate Lloyd, that's the director of economic research here, put a lot of time and effort into kind of looking at what happened, and I want to give them kudos for the work that they did. So now, again, just talking a little bit about the basic context of this report, looking at timed entry and what happens, and the report goes through all of this in much more detail. I'm just hitting on some of the high points here as we work through some of the pieces. So ARCHES, that began in 2022, show some of the other places where timed entry has happened throughout the nation. And I want to, like, I know you know these areas very well that we're highlighting here, but I want to use the visual to kind of highlight two separate but related things we're looking at. So one is Arches National Park itself, and looking at visitation there. And so that's the one study area. And then the second study area is the broader Grand County and looking at that broader economy. And so we'll kind of talk about some of the basic data. So some of this we're working from actual data, so we see what actually happened. Others are estimates of actual data, and then others are different types of estimates that we'll talk about, where we're trying to estimate a counterfactual that didn't in fact occur, but it's our best estimate looking at the data of what we think would have occurred in the absence of a timed entry system. So it's just try to keep those clear. I know for me, sometimes they meld together, thinking about the broader geography versus the more narrow geography, and looking at a little bit different pieces of data there. So to start with our first key finding, one is that Grand County has had positive economic growth. So we do these comparisons when we're looking at dollar amounts. These are in inflation adjusted terms. So it's not just nominal increases, but inflation adjusted increase. And across a broad array of standard economic indicators, we see economic growth took place in Grand County. Between 2022 and 2024, which is our main period of analysis for the post-timed entry period. So in inflation adjusted terms, over 22% increase in visitor spending within Grand County, jobs at over 16%, and if you just look at the private sector jobs, at almost 20% higher than the pre-timed entry analysis period. And then related to that economic growth, we see higher tax collections that's coming from that visitor spending. So just in each of these findings, I'll kind of just hit on a couple of the high points of the graphs that are in there. Again, it's quite a robust report with a lot of details here. So you can read through all of the fun details in the 30+ page report that really is chock full of a bunch of different data points that, again, we hope are of use to you. So this one here looks at total visitor spending. And so one of the challenges in doing this analysis is how we deal with a pandemic time period. And it's not only an issue in this study, but other studies, other forecasts we do, just because of the anomalies that took place in 2020 and 2021. And so that's why those are grayed out there. And it is one of the challenges of this, that timed entry then begins in the aftermath of that. So the comparison that we do then is compare the 2017 to 2019 period to the 2022 to 2024 time period and see what the differences are. So again, I want to reiterate, these are in inflation adjusted dollars. And you see that pre-timed entry average time period, $373 million on average in total visitor spending within the county, to 456, over 450 million in the post-timed entry period. So we note this in the report. You do see a decline, a relatively small decline, but it is a decline between 22 and 2024 in that post-timed entry average. But even so, that 2024 time period is still well above the pre-timed entry average that we're using for that comparison. I'm not going to go through all of these in detail, but just know that this detail is in the report. But again, kind of showing private sector jobs, public jobs, tourism jobs, visitor spending, and then related state and local tax revenue. And then elsewhere in the report, we kind of have breakdowns of some of that. Another way of looking at an economy and how it's doing is jobs and what's taking place just in the count of jobs. And so that's what this is showing. And this is that 16% growth from the pre-timed entry analysis period to the post-timed entry analysis period. So then transitioning to key finding 2 is the arches did have lower visitation, but there was higher park visitation in Grand County more broadly. And so just in terms of the counts, we see these drops in the 22 to 24 time period at arches, about 9% lower. The 22 to 24 time period was also lower than 2016. And then as you broaden that lens or you broaden the scope and look at that, if you combine look at not only arches, but then also combine in Canyonlands and Dead Horse Point, the total visitation actually increased in the county at those parks. And then kind of later, we did have the Utah Raptor Park come online, but we're excluding that because it wasn't around in the pre-pandemic or the pre-timed entry time period. So again, lower arches visitation, but higher overall state and national park visitation. And again, I'm not going to go through the details of all of this, but even with those 3, if we had Utah Raptor, it would presumably make these numbers and that growth rate a little bit higher. That we did see increases in park visitation, but we also did see decreases in arches visitation. And so this is just a graph visualizing that data. The red being Arches National Park, and then the other 4 national parks in Utah being shown in the different colors. I think it is important to note that every other national park in the state of Utah did see increases in the post-timed entry time period where Arches was essentially flat, a little increase and then some decrease, but essentially flat, where we did see increases in the post-timed entry part in the other national parks within the state of Utah. So what we've talked about so far are estimates of data or hard actual data, kind of those combined. So this is where we get into more statistical modeling, where we try to estimate more precisely some of the effects of timed entry itself. And so this essentially comes up with the methodology is to have a counterfactual visitation given historical data and kind of pulling in data from other parks that did not have a timed entry. And we looked at it not only one way, but a host of ways for visitation as well as for some of the economic variables. And that's all, again, spelled out in detail in the report itself. So this shows that counterfactual. So first of all, the gray is showing the actual Arches Park visitation. And then the red is this counterfactual estimate. And so what you try to do with these econometric models is try to match up those lines as closely as possible, try to take the data that we have and essentially fit a trend line to what actually happened. And as you'll see with the red, this counterfactual using this other data does fairly closely approximate what happened in Arches since 1990 through that timed entry period. And so then that carries forward into the post-timed entry time period. We also include other model variants. So this is the one that we think is our best estimate of what the counterfactual, showing there in the red, what the counterfactual Arches visitation would have looked like. But we also included a number of different models, right? There are different ways to estimate this. And this is showing the interquartile range, or the middle 50% of these other alternative model variations. And they show, it's not exactly the same as the red line, but it's still fairly similar to what's taking place there. And then we compare that to what actually happens. And that difference is what we're talking about. We think there's about a 14% difference between what we're estimating would have happened in Arches otherwise versus what actually did happen. There's foregone visitor spending associated with that under what we call a ceteris paribus analysis, which means just all else equal. Now, I do think this is a really important thing to highlight. This isn't what actually happened. As we talked about before, that we did see increases in visitor spending, meaning like other conditions changed, right? But this is just a if nothing else change analysis. This is what we estimate would have happened. So that's my high-level overview of our report. Again, there's much more detail in the report itself. And at the chair's discretion, I'm happy to respond to questions.
Yeah, thank you for walking us through that, Mr. Dean. A couple of notes before we get into questions. If we have any real high-level questions that we would like to send, we would like them sent in writing to the Chem Gardner Institute. There were a lot of different people involved in this study, and hoping that Mr. Dean can answer any of our questions that might involve other people. If they're real deep, please put those in an email to the Institute. Also, just for some background, all of the commissioners were given the opportunity to ask questions, and I believe everyone did after we received the draft report. And so there were multiple opportunities for the commission to ask questions and receive answers to those questions. And I want to just thank you for the fact the answers that you did give were very in-depth, and it appeared that everybody's questions were taken to heart. And I just appreciate the fact of what you did at the KMC Gardner to try and meet 7 very different people's opinions on how this report should have came out. So questions, anyone? Commissioner McCurdy? No.
Thank you for the report. We can all sit here and say, we think this, but an in-depth study really gave a stark review of the totality.
I just got one quick question real quick.
Sure, Commissioner Martinez.
So thank you, Phil. So under 3A on the the MOA, it says provide a detailed estimate of annual visitor spending in Grand County pre and post implementation of timed entry, with post implementation comparisons between actual and counterfactual scenarios. Can you give me that value?
Let me try to find it. I believe we have, so some of the counterfactual we have in the body of the report, and some of it shows up at the end of the report. And I know on each of these, if I can't find it right now, we will get that to you, because I know we had that. We had essentially mapped out everything in the MOU to what was in the report. So in the when we're looking at some of the economic indicators on like page 11 through 14, include some of that. And then there's also additional detail in, let's see, looks like Appendix F, starting on page 26. And I'm happy to send, again, we have this mapped out, what was in the MOU, which sections of the report. I'm happy to send that. But like so table F, like the more detailed tables, F3, F4.
Told that it was going to be in the ceteris paribus.
Yeah, and I'll have to follow up on that.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll make sure he gets that to you in an actual email, and then it'll be accurate for you, but we appreciate that. And Commissioner Hedin.
Yeah, and again, sorry, if I could just go back to that. Just
Sure.
like, I think much of what you're talking about is in those like detailed tables in Appendix F.
Okay. Commissioner Hedin.
Oh, sure. This question is more for Commissioner McCandless. And thank you, Mr. Dean, for your presentation. When we state that we're going to put this out to the public, are we going to attach it to this agenda so that the public knows where to go to find that?
Yeah, we are going to attach it to this agenda, and also we are going to release it on our website and share it online on our Facebook, on our social media pages, the links as well.
And are we, Mr. Dean, can we share your presentation also? Is that possible?
Yes, yeah, I'm happy to send a copy of it.
Wonderful. Thank you so
It's largely just what's in the, but a
Yeah.
condensed version of what's in the report.
Yeah, that'd be great though. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I was gonna ask the same question.
Okay.
So I've had a lot of people call and question, wanted to know when they got to see the report, so
Yep.
as soon as
After this
should be sent.
presentation, they get to see it. Anybody else? Mr. Dean, we appreciate your time. I heard that Jennifer was signing on also, but I don't see her on there. But if she is in fact listening, we appreciate both of you and your help and participation in this process.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Appreciate the chance to work with you. And it looks like, I know Jenny's had a number of things she's juggling today. It looks like she did just hop on, but thanks again for the chance to work with you, and we'll get that a copy of my slides and just kind of the crosswalk over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we will move on to the next item.
Thank you.
And I don't see future considerations point or our disclosures on this unless I'm missing it.
Should be doing Bart Coons is president next.
Okay,
It's
He had
are you online?
he is online. He had a dinner obligation that we needed to get
Okay.
him to.
All right, we will move forward with Bart and an update from him. Thank you, Bart.
Thank you.
Bill, just for clarification, is that, or Stephen, is that the discussion item?
Sure, it is discussion item number 2, discussion of options for proceeding land use change applications during land use.
Thank you.
Code update process.
Yeah.
And Bart's gonna give a roadmap and walk us through it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Bart. Take it away.
Thank you. I was asked to talk a lot about sort of vested rights and moratorium and how those two interrelate and how they interact with changes to the land use code. So as many of you know, when the commission is considering updating land use zoning, that as soon as it's formally initiated takes effect. And so any applications that come in after that begins can be considered under the new code if that new code would prohibit the use that the application is coming in under. This sometimes begs the question as to whether the governmental entity should pass some sort of resolution stating, hey, we're starting the clock now on the new zone, just so everyone is aware of it. And so I'm going to walk through what the vested rights doctrine is, how it's been codified in Utah law, what moratoria are. They're distinct, but they're also interrelated with the vested rights doctrine, how that's been codified under Utah law, and then we can kind of get to the timing issue that I was presented the question with. And if you have any questions or comments you want to ask during this time, feel free. I'm just kind of going by the general guidelines that I was given. So first, just by way of background, how all this developed, the vested rights doctrine is a common law doctrine. So what happened is under common law, whenever a landowner submitted an application, they were entitled to have the application considered under the law as it was at the time that they applied. So it prevented surprise, it encouraged predictability, it prevented the government from changing the rules when they didn't like the applicant or they didn't like the application. The state codified this under Utah law. And what that did is it created a sort of a race where the government always lost because anytime the government started considering a change to law, it would have to go through process. So you'd have to go to the Planning Commission. And by the time the law actually was changed, anyone who wanted to develop their law in a way that was going to be prohibited would run to the government, submit their applications, and get their projects approved. So there was this lag time between when the government decided it needed to prohibit something and when it was able to actually prohibit it. And during that time, that gap, a lot of developers would get approved on the projects that were going to be prohibited. So in order to adjust for that, a couple of exceptions were imposed by law to the common law doctrine of vested rights. And one of those was when there's a compelling countervailing public interest that would be jeopardized by the approval. And the second was when the county had formally initiated the process to amend the regulation in a way that would prohibit the application as it was submitted. So they had those two exceptions to the vested rights doctrine. Now, the first of those, I'm going to kind of switch over to moratoria now because that standard, compelling countervailing public interest, is the same standard for moratoria. So moratoria now under Utah law are called temporary land use regulations instead of moratoria. So, if you hear that term, that's what it means. Essentially what we used to call a moratoria is now a temporary land use regulation. It's under a different section of the land use code. And it allows the governing body of the governmental entity, so in this case, you, the county commission, can pass a moratorium without going through the planning commission, just immediately pass it, still have to have a public hearing, but you don't have to go through the normal process. And you can do that in three circumstances. One is if it's an unregulated area. I don't know that you have any of those in Grand County. I doubt it from what I've seen. Two, if it's subject to an environmental impact statement or a major investment study, and it's examining an area for a proposed highway or a transportation corridor. So that's the second one. And then the third one is the one that is most commonly used, and that's where you have this compelling countervailing public interest. And that is a situation where the public's interest is deemed to outweigh an individual's interest. So, for example, there's only been a couple of cases on this in Utah. One of those is the Gardner case up in Wasatch County, where UDOT was putting in a road and they discovered that a slope was actively moving. And there was a subdivision that the county had approved on that slope. And so when the county learned that the slope was actually moving, they imposed a moratorium that was upheld by the Supreme Court. In another case, the Mowdy case, they attempted to use a moratorium to stop a right to a referendum, but the Supreme Court held no, a right to referendum is constitutional under our state constitution, and therefore the public's interest outweighs the individual's interest in that situation as well. So that's what has been defined under Utah law as a compelling countervailing interest. The mere fact that a new regulation is being considered is not enough for it to be a compelling countervailing public interest. And as evidence of that, it's listed separately as an exception to the vested rights doctrine. So also for a moratorium, they can't last longer than 180 days, which is around 6 months. I have always argued that you can stack them. So if you make a new finding of a compelling countervailing public interest, you can pass a new one. That is been hotly contested There's no case law deciding it. The argument against it is good and a good argument. I just think it's different. And they do not apply to applications that are covered by this second exception to the vested rights doctrine. In other words, they don't apply to applications that cannot move forward because the county has already started the process of changing its code to prohibit the land use application. So if we go back to vested rights now, so that's moratorium. That's one of the reasons, compelling countervailing interest, that you can not process an application under the old law. The other is when the county has formally begun the process to amend the land use regulation in a way that would prohibit the applicant's use. And for example, let's say you have a zone that allows you to build high density housing, but before I as a developer submit an application, the county has formally instituted a change in that zone so that I can't build high density housing there anymore. So that would be a situation where it's prohibiting the use that I'm applying for. If you formally begin that process before I submit the application, then my application is not guaranteed a right to be considered under the old zone. Now, a couple of words here of caution. It has to prohibit the proposed use, not just affect it, not just even adversely affect it. It has to prohibit it. The word prohibit is the word that is used in the statute. There are also time limits associated with this. If the county does not enact the legislation that prohibits the use within 180 days, that is within 6 months, around 6 months, after initiating it, then the right of the applicant will vest under the old zoning. So practically you have about 6 months to get the zone passed from when you begin it. There's another exception, a timing exception, that says that if the application fell under a moratorium, then also it's subject to the 180-day limitation. I think that's a mistake in the code. I think they meant to say that it was, if it was prohibited under a moratorium, that it did not, it wasn't subject to the exception, but that's not the way it's worded. The way I read it, the way it's worded is that it also falls under the 180-day limitation, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the way it's written. So I think the intention is to just prevent governments from flipping back and forth, to prevent a project from going by saying, okay, now you're under a moratorium, and then, oh, now you're under the vested rights statute, and just going back and forth and just continuously stopping the project from going forward. So then the question is, well, should we pass a resolution saying, okay, this is when our 180 days begins. We have formally begun to consider a new zone now. And then that way everyone knows about it. The benefit of that is that it's sunshine, it provides transparency, everyone knows. And the language of the statute itself it begs questions. It's kind of squishy. It says, in the manner provided by the local ordinance, the county formally initiates proceedings to amend the regulations in a way that would prohibit approval. So what does it mean to formally initiate? What is the manner provided? These are questions that are kind of up in the air. And so by providing a resolution, you provide clarity for that. However, it's a two-sided coin. There is an opposite side to that coin, and there are some concerns that you should be aware of. One is that, in my opinion, I think that if the county passes that resolution, it would only be applied against the county. It would not be applied against the applicant, because the county is the one that is saying, okay, we are starting now, which allows the applicant to make arguments that the process started later. Also, I think it could give rise to potential arguments that it was misleading depending on how it's worded. So for example, you could say that the exception only applies to a proceeding that prohibits approval, but maybe that prohibition is added later. So at what point then does that prohibition part of the formal process? Or perhaps the prohibition began but then was later taken out or changed to simply a limitation. All these questions arise during the process of amending the code. And so it's always very ad hoc on when this time period begins. And if you set a time period with a resolution, I think that binds your hands somewhat to that date in the resolution, when in actuality, depending on the legal concerns at play, the facts of when certain terms were added or deleted, that date can vary through the process. So that's kind of my overview summary. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
Commissioner Hadid.
Just have a comment. That really helped a lot, Bart, just to kind of go through, the positives and negatives. That helps a lot. I appreciate the process. Thank you, Stephen, for supporting me on that when I reached out to you also.
Have you seen, Bart, when you've seen these in being passed, have you seen the resolutions being challenged?
I have not seen the resolutions be challenged, although I have seen them stop an argument from a governmental entity for a different date.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Bart, thank you so much for dedicating some time to this. If we have follow-up questions, commissioners, if you'll email any of those follow-up questions that you may have, then Bart and I can address them, and we can provide any other information or requests that you guys have as we move forward with any questions you might have. So that's everything that I have for Bart. Any other questions?
Anybody else? Bart, thanks for your time. It's always good to see you. We appreciate your advice and help.
Good to see you as well. Thank you.
All right, with that, I said it previously, I don't see a future considerations on here, so we're gonna take that opportunity and then we will get to Andrea and also commission disclosures.
Down
It's
there?
number 3.
Right, yeah, it's down there. Yeah,
there?
but
It's after general.
that's there.
General business.
All right, well, let's get it out of the way.
Perhaps while you guys are doing that, can Andrea and I set up here?
Yes,
Doing future
please,
disclosures.
feel free to come up and set up. Commission disclosures, Commissioner.
As always, my wife works for the sheriff's department.
Okay. Anyone else?
Don works for Baglabs.
Right, and we had a future consideration mentioned earlier.
Yes,
You go.
we'll need a commissioner to be appointed to a group to discuss the boat ramp at the pedestrian bridge. So we'll try to have that on the next one as well.
Okay, do we want to make recommendations in the future? Just putting that on the next agenda.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Future considerations?
If possible, during the next meeting, I would like to talk about the funding surrounding the Kempsey Gardner study, if possible.
Okay, what else? Yes, Commissioner.
I'd just like to make another request that we get a financial update from our clerk auditor or that department. What I asked the last meeting, and it would be great to see that.
All right, if that's it, another one, Commissioner McCurdy?
Yeah, I'd like to know future consideration on our upcoming topic, Spanish Valley Pathway. I would like to know interest off of our holdings, the current money that we've had for the Spanish Valley Pathway, our earned interest off of that, and if that interest is regulated to the Spanish Valley Pathway specifically, or it has been put in the general fund generally. Please.
So we have a couple of questions for our clerk auditor, and I know this one that Commissioner McCurdy brought up has been brought up several times in the past, so maybe we need to get Dave to dive into that. If there, yes, Sean.
Oh, just a clarification on the boat ramp. Is that as we're looking at, I remember a few years ago, we had a plan to redesign that whole area. That's what this is considering? Okay, awesome.
Cool, thanks. Can I jump in, do you mind?
Sure, please.
Got a meeting set up potentially for May 27th. I had a very small meeting this morning with some of the BLM and SAR to just kind of discuss getting that back on track. And so then the 27th will be the first kind of official meeting of getting that project back into the wherever we go with it.
So this would be like having a commissioner on like a subcommittee then to discuss, similar to the pathway.
Yeah, it's beautiful site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, so that's it.
Just one clarification, when the commission's requesting assistance to look into, I think there was a financial update request regarding a department, and there was another request in the clerk's office. Who did you folks want to communicate that message to? Is it the department you're requesting to look at financials, that's the clerk auditor's department, or is it the which department was that?
Or the
I
administrator.
thought that it mentioned that it was the clerk auditor
Okay.
looking for that report.
Okay.
But I would ask that the administrator just communicate that to the clerk auditor, that we'd like to see a report, especially as we're looking for, I think we had set was it quarter 1 or quarter 2 that we were talking about moratorium or the hiring freeze that we had. So I think that some decisions were supposed to be made, and I'd like to get an update to see where we are, now we're tracking.
I just want to make it clear for who was carrying the torch, so it'd be the commission administrator's office doing that. That was
My thought on that.
I don't have any items, I just want to.
Okay, Andrea, take it away, and I thought that it was kind of a given that that's why the administrator was here to carry out our wishes, but thank you for the clarification.
Get Jeannie.
Andrea, we're looking forward to it.
Right, I'm good. Okay. I just want to say good afternoon. Thank you for having us here from the CJC. One thing I really just want to come before you today and express my gratitude for the support from the commission. My report's actually going to be a little bit more of a 6-month report than an annual report because I was here just in September with the completion of our annual report at that time. Our mission of the CJC is primarily to protect children, support families in crisis, collaborate with our partners, promote healing, advocate for justice, and strengthen our community. One way I really believe we can do that is through supporting our community's youth. For our community engagement, one of the biggest milestones, we officially opened the brand new center. We were overwhelmed in the best way possible by the number of community members who showed up to support us. The grand opening wasn't about the building. It really gave us an opportunity to share the mission of the CJC and what we do. We were able to walk community members through step-by-step of the process when a child comes forth with allegations of abuse. Again, I just want to come forth with gratitude. I am fully aware that this was a significant financial investment by our community, and I want you to know how greatly or how deeply grateful I am for that support, and also how much I'm really trying to be a good steward of these funds. Walking through the new center, I just want to kind of piece by piece, outside of the initial purchase of the building, showcase what efforts have been made to alleviate the burden from the county. So the entire center was furnished by our nonprofit and private donor funds. I also applied for a grant through Synergy, which funded the entire AV equipment for our new center. I reapproached the state for additional funds to complete the remodel of our ADA bathroom, our medical facility, and turning the garage into a meeting space for our MDT. Our landscaping was actually funded by our nonprofit as well, and we utilized volunteers in the community to help install some of that.
And the nonprofit she's referring to is the Friends of the CJC. And we have a lot of community members that are a part of that. So when we say nonprofit, that's the Friends of the CJC.
Yeah, thank you so much. We also utilize the state funding to remodel the garage in the new county meeting space. I believe it was you, Commissioner McGann, last year that mentioned that you really wanted to see this space be able to be utilized then more than just the CJC. And so now we've opened this meeting space up to be utilized by the entire county departments. as long as there's not a forensic interview going on at that time, we really want to be mindful of protecting the integrity and privacy of our children. Another way that we've really tried to leverage and be mindful of state funds is we used to cater all of our lunches and meals, and I've now actually been cooking those myself and providing those to our meeting, our members of our meeting, to try to help save the county funds in those ways. So we've tried to make small operational changes to save on the budget.
One other awesome way that we're utilizing that space, you can see the letters MDT, that's the multidisciplinary team. They meet out there to discuss cases. It's a cross-section of law enforcement, victims advocates, prosecution, as well as the school and therapists. And that gives a wonderful space to be able to meet. Previously, we were meeting at the city hall. That was wonderful to meet there, but this gives another extra level of security, protection, and it is being utilized, and it's really, really helpful and valuable.
So one big piece of the last 6 months has been around legislative advocacy, because as you guys are well aware that the CJC by design is meant to be funded by multiple funding streams, and one of the biggest funding streams is the state. They provide a substantial amount of money to make sure that we have the center for our community. And what happened was, in the 11th hour, we found out we were left off the governor's budget, which created a real problem for us to look forward for funding. And so Representative Ivory was so gracious to run an RFA for us. We approached the legislator to ask for one-time funds to be a stopgap measure in the amount of $470,000 to help with this next year being left off the governor's budget. But because of incredible state leadership and honestly because of our own commission who helped advocate for us at the state level, we were 40th on that list, and we actually were funded number 2nd, and not only just for the one-time ask for the $470,000, but for ongoing funding. So this is an incredible win, obviously for the CJC, but for the county moving forward, because the state has now decided to take that ongoing funds and split it between the 26 centers. So now moving forward, we'll be able to receive more money from the state. And so the county will actually have to pitch in less moving forward. So that will be an additional cost saving to our taxpayers. And then
and one other important part, and I think Andrea may mention her later, is Tracy Tabbitt's been critical and helpful. We really appreciate her in the Attorney General's office for being able to provide the funding. She's been a wonderful partner, advocate, friend, mentor for the CJC statewide. And she's making special trips down to this area as well. So I just wanted to note that.
yes, so, and Stephen's exactly right. Like, we are so grateful for the state leadership and Tracy Tabbitt and everything she does to advocate for our community's youth. Not only did we really work hard on that funding to help support the centers and the cost to our county, but we also fought for really critical legislation changes. One of those, and I'm just only going to touch on a few of them that impact our county and our kids directly. But we met with Senator Brammer. SJR 1 is going to be really huge for our kids because it allows prior acts of abuse, specifically in like child molestation and sexual assault cases, to come in to be a factor so that it can show a propensity for abuse. And so when people are looking at these cases, they're not just looking at an isolated incident in front of them. And so that's going to add additional safeguards to our kiddos. HB 89 was another victory. It protects our victims by limiting the use of polygraphs. So now polygraphs can't be asked, or victims can't be asked to submit to a polygraph test, which is really important. HB 90 was another victory for us. It clarifies what qualifies as a sexual offense across Utah, so it helps ensure consistency. SB 92 was also known as the Desiree Turner bill. If you guys are familiar with that, Desiree Turner was there was an incident involving 2 juveniles that actually shot Desiree and left her for dead. And so previously there wasn't any pieces of legislation that allowed to prosecute those kinds of heinous acts if the victim survived. So this created a stopgap in that regard, because now, regardless of whether the child survives, it allows for prosecution. And then it also allows for prosecution if the victim dies at a later time as a result of those injuries. And then HB 102 was ran by Representative Sahara Hayes. And this is actually a victory, I would say, in a rural community, because it allows victims of crime to utilize their initials instead of their name on court documents. And as you guys know, in small communities, nobody asks to be a victim, so they don't want to be exploited in front of their community and maybe have to see them at City Market or things like that. So we felt like that was a wonderful victory. I had the wonderful opportunity to meet with Senator Ipsen and thank him for the child torture law. I know when we went before legislation before to enact the child torture law or try to get it passed, some of the medical experts in that area said that there was concern that there may be about 12 cases over the course of the last 4 years. And now that the legislation's passed, we are actually up to 9 filed cases of child torture in this very first year. So it's very critical that we have this piece of legislation. I met with multiple different senators who were so gracious to be able to speak with us and just thank them for the support. Senator Owens, he gave the Grand County the DPS grant to cover our MDT money and financial support to make sure that our first responders have critical mental health support. And then honestly, we were only supposed to meet for a few minutes with Derek Brown, but he stopped and actually had lunch and offered his support with the child torture case that just recently came through our county. And so he was so gracious and kind and willing to listen to what's happening within rural Utah. So I was really grateful for that. I won't speak too much to this because this is an open and active case. But as you know, we were in the news for a child torture case. The one thing I do want to express my gratitude to is, and I know Andrew's actually here, but these cases can be really exploitative to our victims, and our local news media actually really leverage this opportunity to educate our community on how we can report concerns when we have any red flags with our children. So rather than being exploitative, they were really supportive and helped us educate our community. So I just want to express gratitude for that. The one thing I will say is the child torture case was incredibly difficult for my team. We were able to leverage the DPS grant and bring in first responders first to conduct a critical incident debriefing and also provide 24/7 access for our team members and their families in case they were struggling being on the front lines with that case. So First Responders First was a critical resource for us, and so we're grateful to them. At a glance, just over the course of the last 6 months, like I said, this is just our 6-month review instead of our annual review. The total number of new and active cases has been 71. The total number of people who've received services is 136. And the total of open and active is 208. One thing that's actually been a little bit different in our case trends is right now we're seeing an increase of child physical abuse over child sexual abuse. And historically, we've seen child sexual abuse. So that's actually been an interesting trend that we're really trying to keep an eye and understand why that's happening for us. Rather than really me saying what kind of job the CJC is doing, I wanted to use the words of the clients who have come through our center so that you guys can see the kind of experience they're having. We use a survey called an OMS survey, and it is completely confidential, but it gives us feedback to help us improve our work at the CJC. And as you can see, these are some of the comments. I've just created a word cloud of the experience that the clients are having at the center. And some of the things that really stand out to me is that they feel safe, they made me feel important, and they felt heard and supported. And if children can walk into a place like the CJC during the hardest moments of their life and they feel safe, then I feel really incredibly proud of the work that's happening at the CJC. Sorry. Some of the system improvements that we've done over the past 6 months is we're really trying to enhance statewide collaboration. We were the first in the state to offer a teleforensic interview. It's incredibly expensive to bring in the Spanish speaking translator because they have to be court certified. And so each time we have a case that involves our kiddos that speak Spanish and need a translator, it costs us approximately $1,500 to do a forensic interview. While I do not feel like it's fair that our rural children do not have access to critical services, I don't think cost should be a barrier. So we reached out to the Salt Lake Children's Justice Center to try to leverage their forensic interviewer, and we created a system where we could do teleforensic interviews utilizing their forensic interviewer in Salt Lake at no cost to us. And we're able to conduct an interview here to also try to save on that $1,500 per case. Did you have something?
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
When it's a teleconference, does it increase or decrease, or does it stay the same, the anxiety that the child is feeling? Because I find teleconferencing.
So there has been research and studies around that, and they've showed no change. Depending on the child, a lot of times they feel more comfortable because they're not directly in the room making a disclosure to another human, but there are people still around. So we did have human observers in the secondary room, and then they were talking to a teleforensic interviewer on the screen. And because it is an actual person having the conversation with them, studies have shown that our kiddos are used to operating on a screen, and they are comfortable doing that.
That makes sense.
For our specific cases, we don't have enough data to see if we're getting the same amount of disclosures yet, as this is pretty new. But it is a means that we're really trying so that we can kind of save on the cost, but also still bring critical resources to rural Utah. And then another thing that we did is we tried to standardize which types of cases warrant a forensic interview, just to make sure that we have equal access and that we're staying consistent with our care. And then our MDT created a unified mission statement. Let's see. We provided strangulation training for our law enforcement to better respond to child abuse cases involving this really high risk factor that we are seeing. And we also increased the community awareness. This was our most recent event, which was Chalk the Walk. I don't know if you guys can see or hear this.
They can see it.
You can see it. So I'll just show you a video. Chalk the Walk gave us an opportunity to just share supportive messaging to our youth to let them know that they matter and they're not alone. We also opened the new CJC for walkthroughs and any questions so that people could come in and see the new facility and better understand what our mission is and what we're trying to do at this center. I continue to serve as the chair of the 7th District Victims' Rights Committee, and I'm still the vice chair of the Utah State CJC Standing Board. I'll continue to serve in this capacity for the next year and a half, and then my role there will automatically roll into the chair of the State Standing Board. And so I really do appreciate this opportunity because I do feel like it's so important to have a rural voice at the state level when they're making such important decisions that do affect us here down in Moab.
And just a little bit of information on that rights committee that Andrea is the chair on. It's a committee that receives any complaints that victims have regarding Grand, San Juan, Emory, and Carbon County. It has representation from across the different disciplines. I sit as the prosecutor on it. The sheriff from Emory County or Carbon County?
Emory.
Emory County sits on it, victim advocate San Juan, so it's a cross section. We receive the complaints and process those complaints. And that's been something that's been spearheaded by the state, and Ms. Fox has really been helpful with setting that up and getting that.
Yeah, it's a part of the Victim Services Committee. And one thing that's really nice about that is we get real victims' voices and impact statements, understanding how their experience has been while interfacing with the justice system. And it gives us an opportunity to improve because we already know that they're in crisis and we don't want to add to their trauma through the system. The nonprofit that I talked about earlier is the Friends of the CJC. It's our nonprofit leg. It's fully up and running. And it's helping supply critical financial resources to our kiddos. It pays for therapy, it pays for clothes, at times it's paid for food and things that we need to help support this mission and offset the cost. And so I just want to show this quick video, mostly because our Friends Board is active and our community has showed up in such incredible ways to support this work. Like I said, it's funded such critical services to help our kiddos through some of the hardest times in their life. And so we're really grateful just for in all the donations that the Friends of the CJC has received. And then the Friends of the CJC will be hosting our second annual kickball tournament. We're gonna we've set the date for September 11th so that we can honor the first responders that contribute to this critical work. And it's actually going to be a 2-day event because we had such a good showing last year. I'm really excited about it. So we're going to do a battle of the badges. We're also going to honor our first responders and make it into an entire community event. So I would love to see you guys out there and maybe kicking a ball or two if you would like. Another thing that I'm really excited about this year is on October 2nd, we're going to be bringing in Galen Elmore. He's a former NFL player, and he's going to speak to our community, specifically our high school kids, about belonging. And we wanted to make this event really fun and engaging for our youth. So we decided to create a Stars for Students event where we're going to play flag football. I'm still in the process of reaching out to Stars, but we've had some commitments already from the sheriff and the chief of police and our prosecuting attorney who's willing to play flag football against our high school students. And it's going to be just a really fun event. We're going to be doing giveaways and engaging the community because his messaging is so important and powerful. It talks to our kids about the importance of belonging and just taking that extra second to maybe get off your phone and show up for other people because you really don't know what they're going through behind the scenes. And he was actually abused as a child himself. He went through the foster care system and he doesn't talk about his success amongst himself, but it was about who showed up for him that actually helped him become the success he was today. And so I just feel like his messaging is so important because it showcases what we can do as community members to help uplift our kiddos. And so that will be October 2nd at the high school at 6 o'clock. We'll do the flag football game first, and then we'll be having Galen speak afterwards. And and the only thing without the video, I won't, or the sound, I won't really play my video. But the only thing I do want to say is just thank you again for believing in this work and in me and your support at the state level to help ensure critical funds are met. I mean, I knew that this work was critical, but when we had our kiddo come through the center that experienced such atrocious child torture, I knew that we'd saved a life, and we continue to do this. The CJC saves children, and it's because of you guys that we're able to do that. And so I'm just thankful to our community.
All right. Any questions, comments for Andrea? I want to just say thank you, Andrea. I think you're doing an awesome job there. It's a privilege to be part of that board. I can't say enough good for on there. I will also say that Tracy Tabbitt is an incredible human being, and what she does with what she's in the middle of in her own life and continues to watch out for kids all over this. An incredible person. So very thankful for her support we get down here from somebody at the state level.
We're so grateful for Tracy. She's incredible. Thank you, guys.
All right, we will move on to approval of the consent agenda items. We'll start with approval of the meeting minutes of April 21st, 2026. Ratification of payment of bills, the total bills being $1,920,132.99. Total payroll $458,057.30, with total bills and payroll at $2,378,190.29. Moving on, the independent contract agreement with Shire's Bounce Rentals for the 2026 Grand County Fair. D, the independent contract agreements for the 2026 Grand County Fair for the Boom Bomb Town Crawlers. E, letter of support for Trust Lands Administration, DWR land transfer and sale. And F, ratification of 2025 contour agreement Denver flights. And G, conflict public defender contract award. Commissioner Hadler.
Motion to approve consent is presented.
And motion by Commissioner Hadler, second by Commissioner McCurdy, all in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you. And we move on again to number 5, position backfill request, Tess Barger.
Did we get Mel?
Mel,
What's that?
did we get Mel on that?
Yeah. I raised my hand. I couldn't
Oh,
get my
okay.
audio on.
I couldn't see. I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
I didn't hear you or see you. My apologies. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, Tess.
Thank you all. We have 2 position backfill requests coming before you all today. The first is for our OHV Trail Coordinator position, which is housed under the Grand County Active Transportation and Trails Department. This position is soon to become vacant. The request for this position is because this is our only OHV Trail focused position. So without an employee in this position, none of our OHV efforts will have an employee specifically dedicated to them. This position is also primarily grant funded. The salary of this position is grant funded. The benefits are covered by the county. And I'm happy to pause at that unless you all would like.
Same agreement as before?
Yes.
Yeah, I just making sure.
Yes, thank you. Clarify. Are there any questions on the OHV Trail Coordinator position request? And I apologize, these were put under the same agenda item, and so I'm more than happy to go over the next unless you all would prefer to split them up, but I can go ahead. I'll keep rolling.
Yeah.
So this next request is for one of our patrol deputy positions under the Grand County Sheriff's Office. A patrol deputy position recently became vacant and the sheriff is requesting to backfill that position. It is, as we all know, becoming busy, and so their need for patrollers out there is as necessary as it is any time of year, really this time of year. So that request is also for immediate backfill.
Question and then a motion. Is the sheriff's position, is that open currently, or did someone just give their notice? So we're looking to fill it.
It's open currently.
Is that,
It's
oh,
open
okay.
currently, yes.
Thanks. And then I move to approve the backfill of the OHV Trail Coordinator and Patrol Deputy positions effective immediately.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hadler, second Commissioner McGann. I'll start off with a question. Will those positions, how long do they get advertised?
So the positions have to be posted for at least 10 business days before we can begin the recruitment process. And so approximately 2 weeks by the time we have the 10 business days. And again, during that time, we receive applicants and we'll start the screening and interviewing process as soon as we're able to.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions? All right, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Mel?
Aye.
There you are. Thank you. Passes unanimously. No?
Abstain. Sheriff
Abstain.
Department.
Oh, my bad. I didn't see you abstain.
Yeah.
All right. So that passes 6 with 1
I like
abstaining.
it.
Commissioner
Don't vote for the
McCurdy,
Sheriff's Department.
Thank you all.
for the record. All right. Number 6, consider. What's that, Mary?
I was just making sure he knew that he
Yeah.
can if it doesn't involve money.
Keep my foot out of it.
All right, consideration of approval to enter negotiations phase for the Spanish Valley multi-use pathway. Maddie and Sean Yates, and looks like Sean Yates.
Good luck, Sean.
It's a pretty easy one, Sean. Is she on Zoom possibly?
See her on Zoom, but I'm happy to help as well.
Okay, thank you.
So as you know, in the closed session, the motion is made to proceed.
No motion was made.
Motion was made, just we don't discuss what happens in closed session.
I don't mean to cut in. if I may,
Sure.
like to make the motion to approve consideration or approve to enter negotiation phase of Spanish Valley multi-use pathway.
Motion by Commissioner McCurdy, second by Commissioner Hadler. Further discussion, questions? Yes, Commissioner Martinez.
Yeah, I'm just happy to see this project moving along. I know that there's a lot of folks that have been interested in seeing this get done. So I just want to thank everybody who's been working diligently on this. And yeah, let's just keep the momentum going. Appreciate your motivation and helping us to get more focused on it.
A lot of the community is very eager to see this path done, so. All right, anyone else, comments? All right, I will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. And we will move on.
Okay.
Bid award for the Jackson Street Storm Drain Project, Maddie, and it was short.
I know, I ran into Sean in the parking lot, we started talking about parking spaces, that's the whole thing.
It was so short, you missed literally very little, so it's all good.
Okay.
It passed unanimously.
Great.
You're free, Maddie.
Thank you.
All right, so back to the Jackson Street Storm Drain Project.
So I'll jump in. You want me to?
Yeah.
We put this out to bid in the spring of 24, and we only got one bid, and it was very, very high. We reworked some of the plans. We put it back out to bid. We've got those bids back. They're much more acceptable. I think you're seeing the low bid in the packet. If you got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Anyone? All right, Commissioner Hadler.
I'll move to award the contract for the Jackson Street Storm Drainage Project to Silver Spur.
All right, motion by Commissioner Hadler, second by Commissioner McGann. Further discussion? All right, I will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes 6 with 1 absent, Commissioner McCurdy. And we will move on. To the ordinance. Rocky Mountain Power was UDOT franchise agreement 2027.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tyner.
Yes, sir. It should be Rocky Mountain Power as opposed to UDOT. This ordinance grants a non-exclusive franchise and general utility easement to Rocky Mountain Power for a period of 25 years to access county rights of way to construct, operate, and maintain their electrical system. The previous agreement was for a term of 50 years. So we just asked them to give the county a little more flexibility and extend that agreement for 25 years as opposed to 50.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Hadler.
When was that 50-year term due to run out then, Mark?
It runs out in 27. It was from 77 to 27.
Oh, well, okay.
Yes.
So it's timely and we're just looking at halving the amount.
Yes, that's correct. A lot can happen in 25 years.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Lots happened in 50 years. Does this require a vote?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner McGann.
I move to approve the franchise agreement with Rocky Mountain Power as presented.
Motion by Commissioner McGann, second by Commissioner Martinez. Further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 6 with 1 absent, Commissioner McCurdy.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we will move on then to resolution declaring May 15th. Adventure Safe Day, 16th, I'm sorry, I didn't have my readers on. May 16th as Adventure Safe Day. Commissioner Martinez, be safe.
Yeah, this just came across me. Yeah, this declaration is an integral part of the Always Adventure Safe statewide campaign. And yeah, Adventure Safe Day is May 16th.
All right. Yes, Commissioner Hadler.
Move to approve the resolution declaring May 16th Adventure Safe Day.
All right, motion by Commissioner Hadler, second by Commissioner McGann. Further discussion? Yes.
Just
Scott.
just a question for Brian. Is this the first year they've done that? I don't
Yeah,
put it on the radar.
First year that we don't, I think it's his,
That's a state initiative.
yeah, it's a state initiative. I think
parks,
it's coming,
DOR, yeah.
yeah, I think it's coming from the governor's office that's coming through, so.
Cool.
All right. No further discussion? All right, I will call for a vote. All in favor? Passes
Aye.
6 with 1 absent, Commissioner McCurdy. Hopefully he's being safe. All right, we will move on to. I'm permitting. Sure,
I
I'm
think
not.
Jameson wants to talk. No.
Jameson does? All right.
Yep, he's online.
Yes, let's move on then to our elected officials' reports. We'll let Mr. Wiggins start us off here.
All right, thanks, guys. Real quick, I was just going to talk about a couple things. The first thing is I just signed the BLM contract for another 5 years, paying for our deputy hours to patrol on BLM land. This time it's a little bit different. They're going to pay for dispatch services, and they're also paying to use our computer operating system. And that money goes to fund our search and rescue commander position. The idea behind that is because of our search and rescue. Most of our search and rescues happen on BLM land. So we have a good working relationship with the BLM. So that's a good thing. The next thing I'd talk about is South Valley SWAT. Their tactical team's going to be in town this weekend. We're going to be doing a joint training with my tactical team as well as San Juan County. So in case you guys see officers in camo and long guns, no need to worry about that. Starlinks, emergency manager Kate wrote a grant to purchase a bunch of Starlinks for our patrol vehicles. That was 100% covered by the State Homeland Security Project. And we've started to implement that and roll that out. And we've had a lot of good feedback on that so far. And then the last thing I would talk about is the C10 car show is coming up. The money that's raised from the C10 car show is donated to our search and rescue team. Last year, they donated about $15,000 towards our SAR team. Don't quote me on that. This year, they sold the event out within 72 hours. He ran out of space at the Swanee City Park. And so it's a big event. We're doing, we'll have a big presence there. So I encourage everybody to show up if you're able to help support the good cause. The person that puts that program on, he was actually rescued by our search and rescue team several years ago. And so it's his way of giving back. And that's all I've got.
All right, yeah, I was able to be there last year for that. I thought it was a great event. Yes, Commissioner Martinez.
Yeah, I just wanted to pass along my gratitude, Jameson, on the popsicles for seatbelts. As a dad of a new driver, I thought it was a great little thing that you did out there at the high school. So thanks.
Well, thank you. Yeah, surprisingly, everybody had their seatbelts on. So that was good.
My condolences, Brian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sorry.
And just another quick note on top of what Sheriff Wiggins has mentioned here in his work with the BLM. Also, Dave Powell's at the BLM, the local director, has moved to another entity entirely for his work. So that position is got an interim. It's Jill Stephenson. Am I pronouncing that correctly? So Dave Powell's has moved on. So we will miss him, I'm sure.
Yeah, doing great.
Yes, sir.
Just a few updates from UAC. Some things that more impact the kind of criminal prosecution world. They're looking at redoing some of the sentencing matrix, and there's a new sentencing committee that they're putting together. They've changed a little bit the makeup of who's on that statewide committee. So they're making some adjustments there. UAC is providing additional follow-up and encouraging folks to join their policy steering committees. It's open to any elected for them to be able to review those. They meet less often on the off season, but they're meeting weekly during the session. A fun point of note, they have recodified or changed the codes, or will change the codes to the TRT codes. I think we're probably one of the few counties that is really on the gutter pulse on that one. SB 91, there's a potential for an increase of revenue coming into the county for the DMV. For the assessor's offices that are managing the DMVs, there's a potential for them to receive some additional revenue. I've alerted our assessor to that information. I don't know exactly how much they're going to receive. And then Lastly, there's conversations surrounding the centrally assessed valuation, how that process gets done, and UAC is leading the charge on helping the counties not have to suffer the brunt of the appeals, and they're looking at having some sort of statewide system to be able to balance that. So those are some information for you folks. Next week is the CJC Symposium. The county, through the funding that the CJC provides, sends a number of individuals up to Snowbird to get training on the Child Justice Center reforms and best practices. We'll send a few members from law enforcement, prosecution, Andrea, among some others, will go up. And then the week following, I'll travel to Texas for ICCR, which is the Institute on the Coordinated Community Response to Domestic Violence. In fact, they're in town today providing a training. That's that year-long program that, thanks to the city, we were selected as one of 4 communities across the US, them to fly us out to Texas, give us per diem hotel room, and then bring training quarterly here throughout the last year. And so this is the final hurrah of that program. So that's all of the updates that I have.
All right, do we have anything from our administrator?
I don't have anything.
Do we have any commissioners that would like to weigh in and give an update?
I don't want to give an update. Can I ask Brian, can I ask you a question? Is that possible? Because I read your report and thank you.
Well, no,
for the details.
I do,
Oh,
on my commission
fabulous.
report or the update on the Colorado.
Oh, that'll be good too.
I mean,
But yeah,
Well,
your
it-
commission report, but if you want to give it, then maybe you'll.
no,
answer my-
not my commission report. Yeah, go ahead. If you have a question about it.
I just noticed that you guys had the Arctis Shuttle Working Group. Do you want to give me kind of any little tidbits on that?
Sure, yeah, there's
Okay, that'd be
progress.
cool.
Yeah, I think that right now, I think the things to know is that we have kind of unanimous support around the major groups. We are working through a couple of things. And I think that I was planning on the next commission meeting, bringing forward kind of where we've landed on that.
Okay.
So right now, we're working on the CMA cooperative management agreement to see if that would be a possibility. And then trying to put the funding package together to see how that would look as well.
Okay, so maybe the next meeting.
The next meeting, yeah, so we have,
Okay, great.
another meeting scheduled next Monday.
Okay.
So at that meeting right there, I think that we should have some pretty good answers to bring forward to the commission.
Great. And I appreciate your reports that they're detailed and it helps me see what's going on.
And
Thank
if you
you.
have any questions, just let me know.
No, that's awesome. Thank
Go
you.
into it.
Or anyone else? Commission report? Sure, Mr. Hudler.
I would just like to highlight something, and that was I wanted to thank the governor for coming down for the groundbreaking on the work that they're doing out in the river pathway to close the gap. That was an awesome event. A bunch of you were there, and also wanted to express appreciation to the office of the governor for asking our local bike team to stand there. It was an honor for the kids to get to do that.
Was anyone else? Commissioner McGann?
Oh, just to let you know that the county stole a great employee from the Solid Waste Special Service District, Lily. So we're gonna be really, I mean, I'm happy for the county and I'm sad for the solid waste. And we did have a workshop last Thursday that was incredibly. It was great, you know, it's moving forward in a very positive way. So don't need to go into the details, but we will miss Lily.
Anyone else?
Like, gonna go into the update that I have for the Colorado River right now?
I'll give a brief one.
Oh, okay.
And then we can move on. UAC was very eventful, as Stephen Stock said. There was a legislative panel, and actually I emceed for the commission this year as the chair of USAC. But there was a legislative panel there, and we discussed the centrally assessed there as well. And I just wanted to put out a quote that Carl Albrecht gave us. And he said, "Commissioner, that is a tough nut to crack," because I asked him, I ask always, when are we going to get there? But that was his quote of the day at that legislative panel. And
Don't expect he's wrong.
yeah, exactly. It's a huge battle. There is a lot of more positive movement between the assessors and the residential and commercial real estate. They are making some progress in trying to balance that out. Anyone that brings up centrally assessed is, we bring it up all the time, but it's just, it's a very large thing and it feels like maybe they have better lobbyists than we do.
You think?
Centrally
Yeah.
assessed companies.
I would imagine.
I was also at the thing with the governor, was privileged to speak, following along there. It was a great honor. As I mentioned in that speech, that's where, when I came to Moab, I literally lived in that park until we could find housing in this town. It was a little camp park at the time I moved in, but
Very little.
very little. And then also, I was in a meeting yesterday that was very productive, and we were asking, when I say we, it was Commissioner Mon from San Juan County and myself, and we were asking to utilize the Phase 2 funds to help get the road system and the parking lots ready for the NICA races, and they approved us and allowing us to do that. And then we'll be able to come back, I think, in the fall to reapply for Phase 2 money. But this will just, hopefully, can't guarantee, nothing in life's guaranteed, but that we'll be open and ready for those NICA races this fall that they want to host. I think they've got 2 scheduled. Right. So that's just a brief one I've got, and then Commissioner Martinez, take it away.
Yeah, thanks. So there's been a lot of talk about what's been happening in the Colorado River. And I just kind of want to go through a couple of things that have gone on. So the 2026 Drought Response Operation, which is called DROA, that was signed April 21st. And then Brandon Gerhardt of the Upper Colorado River Commission, this was his quote. We expect 3 of the 5 Flaming Gorge boat ramps in Wyoming will be rendered unusable, and low reservoir levels will have long-lasting negative impacts on reservoir fisheries. We recognize that what we are approving today will have significant negative impact on our water resources, local economies, and recreation. And so DROA is part of the 2019 Colorado River Drought Contingency Plan. And so for the upper Colorado River Basin. And their aim is to minimize the risk of Lake Powell declining below critical elevations. So the Drought Response Operation Plan addressed critical water levels at Lake Powell's, and Reclamation has identified 3,500 feet above sea level. That's the level of Lake Powell as the operational elevation to provide protection for the system. So developed by the Upper Basin and the Bureau of BREC, DROA authorized a drought release of 660,000 to 1 million acre feet from Flaming Gorge Reservoir through April 2027. But there's a little catch right there. So due to the uncertainty regarding water year 2027 operations, as in we don't have an interim guideline set yet, the Upper Basin have determined that they are currently unable to analyze the effectiveness of the 2026 plan beyond September 30th, 2026, right? Given that the drought agreements will expire. There's additional contingency releases that may be drawn from Blue Mesa and Navajo Reservoir, depending on water availability after the 2026 irrigation season. But once again, that's after that the agreements expire. The Department of the Interior also announced April 17th that the Secretary is planning to reduce Glen Canyon Dam releases to 7.8 million acre feet to 6 million acre feet in water year 2026, pursuant to Section 6E of the 2024 Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement of the 2007 Colorado River Interim Guidelines. So we're going to raise the flow and then we're going to drop the outflow, right? So inflow is going up, outflow is going down. Starting May 1st, 2026, flows from Flaming Gorge Dam will be at full power, which is 4,600 CFS. And then starting May 4th, 2026, following the power plant capacity release, Reclamation will implement a larval trigger study plan release for the Razorback suckerfish. This will include an additional bypass of about 4,000 CFS. So flows totaling 8,600 CFS coming out. Based on the April forecast, Bureau expects that inflow and outflow modifications will prevent Lake Powell from reaching minimum power pool. Amy Haas, the executive director of the Colorado River Authority of Utah, this was her quote. She says, "I wish I could say I was confident in that forecast. I'm not, because the changes that we've seen over the last couple of months," end quote. If Glen Canyon continues to decline below 3,490 feet right there, water releases would only be through the river outlet works, which could cause operational issues, downstream impacts, instability in the regional power and the water supplies. Additionally, you have reduced releases from Lake Powell will accelerate the decline of Lake Mead, with the potential for an additional 40% reduction to Hoover Dam's hydropower generating capacity as early as this fall. Jenny Dumas, the water attorney for the Jicarilla Apache Nation, had this quote, which I thought was really interesting. "It's going to take time to recover these reservoirs before we can do this again. So while we can exhaust our reserves to avoid system collapse this year, it means reserves won't be there next year." That was the end of her quote. So with Lake Powell's minimum probable inflow this year, forecasted at 2.78 million acre feet, the system faces a deficit of 4.7 million acre feet relative to the delivery of the obligations set by the Colorado River Compact. We have a law for the river that no longer exists right now. The complete capacity inside of Flaming Gorge is 3.1 million acre feet. With all that, Arizona's Department of Water Resources released a statement agreeing with plans to order upstream releases to stabilize Lake Powell, but also warning that revised downstream releases were, quote, "substantially less than required under the 1922 Colorado River Compact. Failure to comply is itself a serious development that Arizona will assess and respond to accordingly," unquote. Utah leaders, and that was in the document that I did provide on there from the Utah Colorado River Authority, have said that Utah leaders have been direct that litigation will not produce more water. It won't, yeah. The upper basin states, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, and New Mexico are calling for state leaders to return to the table and bring a negotiator into the room. The Times Independent just covered that pretty well, I think, recently. Couple of other things over the next week, Bullfrog Marina will be relocating to Halls to maintain marina operations. Currently, Lake Powell is at 3,526 feet elevation. And then in the packet, I also put a picture of the new North Wash boat ramp right there, and that was from 5.3. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
Gary.
Yes, Commissioner.
That was excellent. Thank you. Thank you for the update. And I guess I won't say much, but we sit back, it's really easy to sit back and it's so hard to watch this system collapsing. And so it's also overwhelming. And you might be saying, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? The reality is we are the local land use authority, and there are things that we can do. And so that's all I'm going to say. But to continue to put stress on that river is something that we as a local land use authority really need to think seriously about. That river is it's the most endangered river in the United States, for sure. If not, the world. It is under extreme stress. The climate is changing. I don't use the word climate change. I use the term aridification. And there's literally, hundreds, if not thousands of research papers to back up that term. And so I would just say that it's easy to be overwhelmed and to be like, what can we do? And we can do something. That's all I'm going to state.
You might want to, I'm sorry.
Yes, Commissioner McGann.
I just said you might want to explain that term.
Aridification. It's just we're becoming, soil, it's getting hotter. We have less precipitation, soil moisture is going down, so it's just becoming more arid. We're becoming a more arid region, specifically the Colorado Plateau where we exist, so.
All right, anyone else? We have the Fixed Guideway Subcommittee update report. Who was gonna give that?
I think we were just, we've included, meeting notes from those meetings going forward, just to keep the.
Okay.
Informed. I don't necessarily think we need to do a full report. I think that was pretty comprehensive.
All right, sounds good. I believe that brings us to 5:45. Do we want to come out of a closed session for our 6 o'clock citizens be heard?
I think it'd be easier if we perhaps call recess, then have the 6 o'clock citizens be heard, if any, and then go into closed session.
Okay, all right, with that, I will call a recess at 5:46. We will come back at 6 PM for our citizens to be heard. Thank you.
Where's Dave Powell's gonna be working?
The Corps of Engineers.
Oh, really?
In Phoenix, right? Is that what he said?
Phoenix.
Melody, can you hear us again all right?
Melody, are you back online?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, she's
There
here.
we go. Back. All right. It is 6 p.m. I will call this meeting back to order. We had a brief recess as we closed business early tonight. And with that, we will have our 6 p.m. citizens to be heard. I will take volunteers. Anyone want to come up? Mr. Day.
Thank you, appreciate it. I've had a couple of concerns. First, my name is Randy Day. I live on Highland Drive here in Moab, Utah, and have for a long time in the valley, in the city, in the county. Been involved in the planning commission of late. I'm a planning commission member, and I've really enjoyed that. It's a lot of fun. It takes us a lot of time, feels like, for me to get our feet going, to get things done. And it's been my understanding that we have 2 liaisons from the county. And Trish Hedin has been a wonderful asset as far as I'm concerned. But as I understand it, that Brian Martinez was our county commission liaison. If there is a code or there is a rule that you have passed that we have 2, I would love to see it. Because of Robert's Rules of Orders, I look at it and I see it as an out of order place that Trish Hedin, and not her personally, but that position that she's holding is there. It causes conflict for me as a member of the board because I got 2 definitely conflicting opinions on the board from the different commissioners that we have. Whether that's good or bad, it's not the purpose of a liaison, in my opinion. A liaison is to bring your wishes from the council to us, not with a dividing opinion, but with that opinion. Our job is to promote what we have to you through that liaison. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I've got different opinions from the liaisons, we have a conflict. Okay, that's my problem with that. If you think that we need that many, then you can put 2 more council members on there, commission members from the county, and we can all go home. You'll have a quorum and you'll be ready to go. If you really want our input and want us to go to work, we need to, there's a lot of discussion that's unnecessary in that meeting because of those 2 opinions. And I appreciate them both, and I'm not having a heart attack for which one gets to stay. But I'm going to tell you, it's not good for that board. It is dragging our feet. You've given us a mission, and we're not going to complete it the way things are going right now. I promise. It's not going to happen. And we're going to get this. Also, that leads me into a good segue of talking about any kind of moratorium on people that want to use planning and zoning to go forward with their projects. It is almost nonsensical to stop that and put a moratorium on that, and here's why. Our lack as a county government to do our jobs should not be an emergency for us to call because we don't do it. Those people have a right to go forward with whatever it is they're doing. There's nothing that we should be doing to inhibit that. That's our fault. Shame on us. Don't put it on the people in the public to drag it out another 6 months or whatever moratorium you think you want to do. It's wrong and should not happen. And it shouldn't be voted to have that because of us. If it was something they did, that's one thing. If it was something we couldn't see coming, that's another. But we know we're in the middle of our plan. And we know that. And we've been working on this for a long time and we're dragging our feet. And I don't like that. Let's go through this thing line item by line item. I'm ready to work 2 or 3 days a week, whatever it takes to get it done. So that this county has a really good comprehensive plan that you can punch the button and find out what you can and cannot do. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. My minutes are up.
Thank you, sir. Do we have further? Anyone else? Do we have anybody online?
No.
All right.
Got to start recording. No big deal.
Okay. All right, with that, yes, Commissioner Hadler.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I would move to go into closed session to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual.
All right, motion to go into closed session. Seconded by, let's see, motion by Commissioner Hadler, seconded by Commissioner McGann. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So we have 4 in favor. two opposed, one abstaining. Closed session.
So we can talk about, I don't know if the body wants to talk about it in open session, I would encourage the commission to consider going into closed session to have this conversation.
I'm confused.
We have
I know.
had talked about two items to go into closed session, and one commissioner can't vote on the closed session basis. He has to abstain. What were the votes again?
4-2.
4-2.
Or two, you need 5 to go into closed session.
4-2-1 out.
I wanna know. I'm surprised. I had no idea that this would happen, that we would not go into closed session, especially. You know what, I can't say what we're planning on discussing, but I don't understand.
An option would be, the chair we can look at, discussing with the chair to call an emergency meeting. This is something that will come up. If the commission does not want it to be discussed in closed session, it will have to be discussed in open session.
Who was opposed? Sorry, you didn't call that. Who was opposed?
Commissioner Winfield and Commissioner Martinez.
Okay, so did you guys want to talk about this in open session?
No, we don't even think it should be discussed whatsoever.
It has to be. So it has to be.
Our county attorney believes it needs to be discussed.
Right, but his county attorney is here to advise us.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will provide a follow-up to the chair, for consideration. This will be something I have a statutory obligation to raise this, and so I will raise it for the chair for consideration, and that's all I can do.
Yeah, and I think that was another item that we wanted to talk about in closed session as well, that relates to grandmas.
Yeah, can we do the one, what would that be under?
That's not character and
That would
competence.
be a different motion.
That's a
Yeah,
different
We can
motion.
talk about it in open session as well, if that's what you guys want to do.
It's the same motion.
Oh, just, yep. But I was coming to check.
Could
We
we,
can, that. Correct, if I'm wrong, Stephen, that discussion could potentially wait till next meeting.
Well, I mean, both of them can. One's gonna be more.
I agree.
I will follow up and provide, I guess I'll provide the commissioners, updated information on what their options are proceeding forward.
Okay. All right, with that, I will adjourn this meeting at 6:08 PM. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Melanie.
Bye.